WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
The strength of the iron, it's in the testing. Bring them up. It's not a loss, it's just a lesson. Be grateful for your blessings. You'll be digging deep to find that inner strength. No, it's not the time to give up. No, nah. I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat me. We control your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me. So irate, wake up and I'm ready. Must make it ever steady. Setting goals is necessary while they hiding. Precious time they wasting like a disease is that spreading. Know which if they eyesight I say I don't know why. Some will worry about that next man's stride. Try to match up and next man life. Fix your life. And as soon as I start walking on, you want to make something must be wrong, yeah man. I don't come here for that, all you help me burn and dirty. I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat me. Because show me your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me. I'm telling you, number one, we don't come to take nothing from them. I'm telling you, people, music, look, everybody chanting. I'm telling you, these people, business, while we come to need blessings. I'm telling you, don't corrupt and tell so help me broadcasting message. Look back vibes on my side. We fuel by motivation. Keep sending out good signals. Pay attention to your audience. Let your light shine. What's for you will be for you. With the real ones rooting for you. Just let your energy introduce. Yes, they don't know why. Some will worry about that next man's stride. Try to match up and next man life. Fix your life. And as soon as I start walking on, you want to make something must be wrong, yeah man. I don't come here for that. All your head me burn and dirty. I'm not telling you. I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat me. Because show me your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me. Please. I'm telling you, number one, we don't come to take nothing from them. I'm telling you, people, music, look, everybody chanting. I'm telling you, these people, business, while we come bring me blessings. I'm telling you, don't corrupt and tell so help me broadcasting message. I'm telling you, we heart still pumping. Yes, it shall run things. We happy time to let it show. Make a jump, shut up on your road. Lift the chin up, free up and head up. We have some blessings before we head out. Before we leave here, we have to yell out. I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat me. Because show me your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me.
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A special good morning to all of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video. Remember, it's your duty to like the live, share the live, get everybody involved in the conversation. It is a beautiful, beautiful Friday morning here on the Spice Isle. The sun is shining, there's love in the air, it's Valentine's Day. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful day this morning. All right, I woke up in a good mood. I continue to be in a good mood, and I hope to go to sleep tonight in a good mood. All right, it's very, very, very wonderful to see so many people in their red and their pinks, and I know I didn't put on my red today, but that's quite all right. That's quite all right. I'm still celebrating Valentine's Day. Of course, happy Valentine's Day to all of you listening, to all of you viewing on the live video. A special good morning to all of you. I'm waiting patiently today for y'all to bring me my chocolate, eh? All right. But of course, we must do what we must do every day to keep the nation updated on what's happening. And of course, to get you guys involved in logical, reasonable, factual conversation. So we're going to open the lines very early this morning. 440-7377 is the number to call if you're calling locally. And of course, if you are in the diaspora, you can call from 347-329-3101. And those of you who are joining us on the live video, feel free to put your comments there. The topic this morning is wide. We're talking about a number of things this morning because, of course, it is Friday and so much has happened during the week. Of course, if you just want to call and spread some love, we accept that as well, all right? Because it is Valentine's Day, so we do accept a lot of love. So if you want to call and spread some love, you are very free to do so. Of course, as I do every morning, I've been doing for the past week, is to keep you updated on the numbers for the coronavirus. I know that everybody, even though it is Valentine's Day, it's still at the back of our minds. And of course, we still need to be informed. So as of this morning, February 14th, the numbers are as follows. 64,471 confirmed cases, 1,384 deaths, 7,177 recovered cases. And as we know, the majority of the cases still remain within the mainland China. But we do have some good news. Of course, there were 2 cases reported in Russia, 1 in Nepal, 1 in Sri Lanka, 1 in Finland, and 1 in Cambodia. The good news is all of the people in these areas above mentioned, they've all recovered. All right. So currently, there are no cases of the coronavirus in that area because the people who were infected with the virus in that area, they have since recovered. And of course, outside of China, we've only had 3 deaths, and that's 1 in Japan, 1 in Hong Kong, 1 in the Philippines. So please keep that in the back of your mind. The numbers again, 64,471 infected, 1,384 deaths, and 7,177 recoveries. All right? So we go in places. I mean, we are blessed in the Caribbean to be afforded, the grace and the mercies of the Almighty to not have a case, But we just never know. So we always have to be prepared. We always have to ensure that we follow the safety tips and listen to our health officials because they have the information. They have the facts. They get the direct updates. So they will know. All right. So we definitely want to encourage people to be hopeful, but be cautious as well. All right. Of course, there's so much to talk about this morning, but there's something that I must. It is a must for me to talk about. Before I do that, this morning, it was so funny. My son got up and he said to me, "Mommy, it's Valentine's Day." And the child sat yesterday and made a list of all the girls in his class. And this morning, I had to buy chocolate and cake for all of the girls in his classroom. Now, this is not something that we pre-discussed, or this is not something that he's accustomed to doing, but he just decided that this year was the year that he was going to make me dip into my pocket and buy chocolate and cake for all of the girls in his class. So see me in the supermarket this morning picking up all the people chocolate and cake to bring for the girls in his class. And that just goes to show that sometimes, out there, if you show a lot of love, that's what children pick up on. They mirror or they model what they see. They mirror and they model what they're exposed to. So you have to put it in the context that we have to be what we want our children to be. We have to emulate the kind of actions that we want our children to emulate as well, And I was so proud of him. I mean, he made me spend a lot of money. But apart from spending the money, and I didn't mind because I was so proud in the decision that he made to honor these young ladies in his classroom. They never did anything for him that I know of. It's not people that he talk about when he gets home in the afternoon, But the fact that in his mind, he felt like that is something that he had to do today. I just felt it was a proud parent moment for me, you know. And we have to try to encourage our kids to have more moments like that where they can make these kind of decisions, good deeds, just off the top of their heads, you know. And I was very proud of him. But let me get down to the topic that I really want to talk about today. You know, I know it's Valentine's Day, and I know that everybody is busy buying chocolate and flowers and balloons and candy and whatever it may be. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I still have to share facts with you and information with you and refute some of the misconceptions that are floating around, fluttering around and trying to find its way into our minds and into our conversations. All right? And yesterday and this morning, I was listening to a radio program, and I really try my best. I try my best to educate on my program, on this program, on Hard Talk, as much as I can, because, you know, some people misinterpret what you try to do. And I pride myself in the fact that I am always looking for information, always looking for facts. And I think it's my duty to the Grenadian public as a radio host that when I sit in this chair, that the information that I give to you is well-researched information. And that when I share my opinion, it's just that. Just my opinion. But my opinion must also come from a factual place, right? A logical place, a well-informed place. And I feel like sometimes, as radio hosts and radio personalities, not everybody, but sometimes, some of us do a lot more damage than we do good. Now, if I don't know something, sitting here in this chair, if I don't know something, there is nothing wrong in saying I do not know. There's nothing wrong in saying I'll try to find out. There's nothing wrong in telling somebody you are incorrect, but here are the facts. There is nothing wrong in that. And we spoke about leadership yesterday. Leadership has nothing to do with being in charge or being in control or making the decisions. But leadership has a lot to do with being able to make the hard decisions that nobody else wants to make. Being able to lead in positivity in the midst of adversity. And that's when you see what true leadership is all about. You know? It's very, very difficult for me to sit here and do this, but it has to be done, you know? So I was listening to the radio program, and a caller was mentioning that the budgetary allocation for agriculture was too low. And it was one of the lowest, or it was the lowest budgetary allocation in the budget. And that did not upset me more than the host agreeing that it was the lowest. And at that point, I had to say something because, I mean, education through information, right? And it's not that you are trying to show that you are more informed, but you are trying to ensure that other people are not misinformed. So the budgetary allocation for agriculture for 2020 is $157.2 million. It is one of the highest allocations for this year. Right? And we had people talking about, oh, the allocation is not enough, it's a little bit, it can't do. Let me tell you all something. And I'll be very frank. We need to start coming to the realization that the government of Grenada doesn't have a mint. That the government of Grenada doesn't just pull money out of a hat to allocate at the end of every budgetary cycle for the next cycle. Right? The government estimates the amount of money that they can put into a specific sector based on the monies that they are expected to collect. All right? So we have to be very careful. We've sat here a lot talking about we've sat here a lot talking about that pie, that one pie. You know? That one pie that we all have to dip into. You know? It's very difficult for government to make the hard decisions. It is very difficult. And that is where true leadership comes in. Because you have to cut from one place to put into a next place. We want increase in salaries. We want better roads. We want better education systems. We want more agricultural allocations. We want more tourism. We want more job creations. We want. But what we don't want to do is to understand where the money is coming from. What we don't want to do is care enough to appreciate that the hard decisions are being made by our government. And this has nothing to do with this administration or that administration or this party or that party, because regardless of what administration comes into office, the same thing will apply. It is one pie that we are eating from. And that pie must be shared in a way that everybody has an opportunity to benefit. So we had a cut in the Imani program allocation. We had a cut in the Empower program allocation. We had to cut in other places so that other places would get a bigger allocation, so that other places would get bigger funding. So when I hear people go on radio and on public forums and speak about this was not enough and that was not enough, it upsets me because it makes me understand that they do not understand or they do not care where the money is coming from. We have to do better as a people. So we all took to social media and we all complained that the government was bad and they should increase the salaries to XYZ. We all jumped to social media and we all complained that the roads needed fixing. What we failed to do was to understand that in order for this to work, shuffling has to be done. So for example, you are at home. You get $500 for the month. You have to give Noasa 50. You have to give Flo 100. You have to give Grenlek 150. You have 3 other bills that you need to pay. You need to now shuffle your money around to make sure that when you pay these other 3 bills, you have money left over so you could buy food. The concept is the same. It is one pie, one pot, one amount. We have to split it up and share it up so that everywhere can benefit. We all want to see more. We all want to see Grenada thrive. We all want to be able to drive on nice, smooth roads without potholes. We all want to be able to have an education sector where school is completely 100% free and our children getting free books and our children getting, we all want to see that. We all want higher salaries. We all want, and it is your right to want. But like I always say, with your right there comes a responsibility. You know? We have to be careful. Now, apart from this agriculture issue, we have another issue that is brewing. And I'll get back to agriculture. We have another issue that is brewing with the teachers, the Grenada Union of Teachers, and the Ministry of Education. You know? And I'm expecting actually a quick call anytime from our Minister of Education who would give us some further information on this issue. Because as per usual, we have people who don't listen. We have people who just take information haphazardly and just run with it. They don't care what damage it does. They don't care if they misinform a few or a lot. They just run with the information. So I'm expecting a call from the Minister of Education, and she will further clarify this issue. We have recently heard that there was talks being conducted between the Grenada Union of Teachers and the Ministry of Education on how they can strengthen the education system, starting with the administration, starting with the employees and the staff, starting with us, ourselves, what we can do better to improve the system. And there have been talks, all right? And I believe that she's calling right now. Hello, good morning, Minister.
Hi, good morning, and how are you?
I am good, and how are you?
I am very good, and I want to say good morning to you and to all of your listeners, all of those who might be viewing, looking at you on the live. And I am so very happy to have this opportunity to connect.
Wonderful. Well, Minister, we know that you've been having it rough for the past, almost a year. It has been a struggle. It has been a struggle. But I know that you're here to clear the air because there have been a lot of talk going around. And of course, I'd like to wait until the officials speak first on an issue. And it further helps me to get more information so I can speak from an informed place on what is happening as it relates to the Grenada Union of Teachers and the Ministry of Education.
Okay. So let me just start by saying this, that I believe every person in Grenada understands the value, the importance of our education system, and understands how important it is that we are doing everything to ensure that we improve our education system, not just for our students who are in school now and giving them the best possible opportunity at a quality education, but for those who are going to come. You know, it's always said that a country is as strong as its education system.
Yeah.
That if its education system is weak, if we do not prepare our children adequately for not just the future, but for survival and for operating within an environment called society, then we would have failed ourselves, we would have failed the entire society. And that is why it's so important that we do everything to safeguard and to protect our education system, because it really is the heart of our nation, right? And if we look over the years, what has happened for many persons who are much older than myself, they would tell you that in many regards, we do have a lot of work to do as it relates to building and strengthening what we do have, and to better prepare our citizens, not just to function locally within our Grenada context, but globally so, to be competitive and to be able to represent us in a way and represent themselves in a way that make them able to achieve their fullest potential and to succeed. That being said, of course, the Ministry of Education, we have a mandate. As Minister for Education, the law is extremely clear as to the important role of managing our education system to get the optimal results and to ensure that every child is given a fair chance to succeed. As I say that, I would repeat one of the concerns I've always had, and as a nation is something we need to examine very closely and to dig deeper to understand where we are. We sometimes boast a lot about the success of many of our students, and we sometimes in the process, forget a very important factor, a very, very important element that we need to pay very close attention to what is happening. And the question is, when we speak about success, what percentage of students are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The reality of the situation is this, that we sometimes get caught up in the success of some students, and hats off to them, congratulations, job well done. Credit must be given to their teachers, their parents, and all those who contributed to their success. But my heart is often burdened with the number of students who are not counted in that number. And unfortunately, I'm concerned that we are speaking about large numbers.
Yeah.
I'm speaking about students who never get an opportunity to get to Form 5. Are we paying attention to the numbers? Are we paying attention to the number of students who get to Form 5? And a school does not want their overall pass rate to be affected, and so discourages that child, does not give that child a chance to write the exam. Are we speaking about those children who write the exam and is not able to get at least 5 subjects at the end of writing the exam? Are we speaking about those students who started off in preschool, got to grade 6, went to secondary school, and journeyed from Form 1 to Form 5? And when they get to Form 5, they cannot do more than 2 subjects at the CSEC level. It means that the issues within our education system must be carefully analyzed when we speak totally about education. It's not just about a couple of students, a number of students who just succeed, but we also have to look at what that bigger picture is. We have to seriously examine our current system where we say, for example, and this is a conversation that might be very difficult, but it's a conversation that we must very soon start to have, that the top 300 students get their first choice. So you go to one school, and all of the boys who came in the first 50 are in one school.
In one school.
And you go to another school where all of the students in that school happen to be the lowest performers. And the question is, do we need to re-examine how we place students and how these students who go to a particular school feel? And do they start thinking, even before they start school, that they've already failed because of the school they've been assigned to? How do we start the conversation about students who may not be very academically inclined, but we force them into a secondary school, place them in Form 1, and give them 13 subjects to do when they have difficulties writing a simple sentence? Are we setting up our children for failure before they start? Do we need to do a thorough assessment of our education system, attacking boldly the very tough decisions that we have to take? Is it a time to review whether or not the way we assign students to school might not be the best means of doing so? Is it a time to consider whether or not we do not need to expand the technical program in certain schools to cater more for certain students? The conversation as it relates to education is one that requires us as a nation to put our political views aside, put our views that are probably selfish aside, put our views that probably applied to 30, 40 years ago aside, and to critically look at the current situation and to give support to the Ministry of Education as we look at education reform in a broader context. And so because of that, over the past months, we've been making a number of changes. We've been reviewing a number of areas, and so it would result in changes in a number of ways. It would result in changes as it relates to management, leadership, staffing, a number of areas. And so in the public domain, some things might be interpreted in a particular way. But as I've said before, there are tough decisions we must make. There are things we need to put in place that we may not have had in place for a very long time. But based on the current situation, we have no choice but to now take certain decisions. Now, as it relates to and that may require, Duncan, an entire program where we speak about some of the issues within the education system. For example, right now, we are about to present to Cabinet a special program that is called an alternative program for students with challenges. And there are two components of that. Students at risk in certain schools, and when I say at risk, students who may display certain tendencies, that you may spot certain things that tells you that if you don't address this now, in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years, that's the person you're going to meet in the magistrate court. And so the conversations would be difficult, but we have to have those conversations and we have to take certain action.
Yeah.
So it may mean that this child or those children may have to participate in a slightly different program to that of which their peers might be exposed to, because there must be an objective to ensure that these students do not end up where they may be heading. Right. So in one court, for example, when you have 15 students before that court on the same day, it tells you that you cannot use the strategies and the methods that you've been using to deal with a situation that might be slightly different. So it may call for a different response. But when you look at the students in question, you may conclude that somehow these students are coming from particular communities. So now you must be now broader than the classroom, and your approach and your response must also be community-based. And that is why I'm saying there's some conversations that are difficult, that are tough, that some people may attempt to politicize, but they are conversations that must happen regardless. And as I often like to say, one thing that motivates me, one thing that stirs up passion within me is challenge. So you don't have to worry too much about how much pressure that have been over the last, and you said it's a year, it's more than a year now.
Wow.
But you see, those are good. Those are good because it points you clearer to things that you must address within the education system, and it pushes you to address them. So out of every situation that might appear to be bad, there's always something good that's going to come out of it for the greater good of society, and that I live by that. I believe that without a doubt.
Yeah.
Now, as it relates to the substantive issue, which is that of the current situation between the Grenada Union of Teachers and the Ministry of Education. Now, this may sound weird to some people. This may sound as something that is not true, or it may sound strange in the ears of some persons. But the Ministry of Education, at this point, has been able to maintain what I consider to be an excellent relationship with the Grenada Union of Teachers. Some people might not want to hear that, because what they might want to hear is that the ministry and the union is fighting. Mm-hmm. What they might want to hear is that there's chaos, right? Now, if you're going to be in a relationship expecting that two parties are going to always agree on everything, then there's a fundamental problem and a basic problem that you don't understand relationship.
Yeah.
So the ministry or the government and the union has a relationship that says we have two interests. Interest number one being the teachers of Grenada, Carriacou, and P.T. Martinique and their well-being. Interest number two, the education system that comprises all of the stakeholders in education, particularly our teachers, our principals, and our students. And that is where there's a common ground between the union and the government. So a person who expects and who rejoices and wishes that the government and the union would never see eye to eye, would never collaborate, would never work together, is somebody who is saying, I don't care about the education system of Grenada. But mindful of the need for that common ground and common understanding, there's also the very fundamental thing that we need to note, which is that if we agree on everything, then something is also wrong. I don't expect that the ministry, the government, and the union would agree on everything. And so what is important is understanding that when you disagree, that fundamental must be mutual respect for each other. So that is why when the union went on rest and reflection, at that point, up to that point of, well, not rest and rest and reflection before the work to rule started. Up to that point, the Ministry of Education and the union was meeting once per month as agreed. We set a date. Every month we are going to meet. And after rest and reflection, the union apparently took a decision that it was not going to continue those meetings. And I remember at a conference of the union where I was invited to address the union, I made the point that we would not agree on everything. But because we don't agree on everything means we can't talk about those things we agree upon. That doesn't make any sense. So even if we don't agree on pension issues, you mean we can't talk about other benefits for teachers? And that was when the union took a decision that they were going to resume the monthly meetings with the Ministry of Education. And those meetings, if you ask me, have been going extremely well from that point until today. We had our monthly meeting due for last Tuesday. I did not expect the union to come because I was aware the ministry granted permission that they were having a general meeting with their membership. But I anticipate and I expect that the union would be back at the table of discussion in the month of March, because we meet once per month. Of all the items on the standard agenda, there's only one item, I believe, that the ministry and the union has not been on the same page over the last 6 months. And that is the issues surrounding industrial action and industrial relations. So there are about 8 items: school maintenance, code of ethics, a number of items, the collective agreement, and different items that may not have been implemented thus far. We've been discussing all of those items on a standard agenda. And every time we meet, we provide an update to the union. The union would have questions. Minister, this school, that school, we concern about this, we concern about that. And the ministry is able now to provide a response to the union of where we are as it relates to this project, that project, what we're doing, what we intend to do, and very cordial discussion. And I said there's one item, which is industrial issues, industrial relations, where I believe we may not have been on the same page totally over the last 6 months. And that is the item I would just stick to now, or attempt to clarify. This is a very simple matter that sometimes I think we try to complicate. There is no war, in my opinion, on this matter. The union took a decision and called off its members, informing them that they should not report to work for 9 days in 2018. The Ministry of Education sought, and I made about 3 public attempts to reach to the executive and teachers, that what was happening was not in keeping with industrial protocols, nor was it in keeping with the law of Grenada, which outlines if parties have grievances, what is it those parties are supposed to do in terms of action that they take. We've always known of the specific responses that unions would take as it relates to particular situations. So we know very well about red armbands. We know very well about go slow. We know very well about strike. But we never heard before about rest and reflection.
Yeah.
We never heard it before. And we keep saying to the union, even then, we prefer that the union refer and relate to the laws of Grenada as it relates to any grievance or the settlement of any industrial issue that confronts or faces the membership. So the government appealed, and the union did not respond, and the government took a decision. The decision being that because these workers did not report to work on X days, some people 9 days, some people 2 days, some people 1 day, some people 5 days, that the government of Grenada cannot pay these persons for the days they did not report to work. The question is, why did the government reach the point of making that decision? A, it was after several appeals to the union to report to work, and the union indicated that it was not going to respond to those appeals. B, all other options were examined. Several attempts were made at different means of getting workers back, and none of those work. The only action taken that resulted in workers returning to work, I believe, was government's decision that it was not going to pay for the days that you continue to be off the job. The third thing that informed government's decision, and this was not a very easy decision, and sometimes people think that this is a case where somebody don't care and they don't have a heart and they just decide they're not paying the people. This was not an easy decision. But I always ask persons, put yourself in the shoes of management and tell me what else would you have done to ensure that, one, we restored order and normalcy, and two, that we did not set a precedent that whenever you have an issue, whenever you have a problem, whenever you're not happy with how things going, you can just go off for 9 days on rest and reflection while students remain at home. So to the government of Grenada, the precedence is what would have ultimately informed that decision. The concern, not just for those 9 days, but the concern about the future of the education system. Now, some people have children in school and they don't care. That's okay. Some people don't have children in school and they don't care about who have children in school. Some people cannot see past today, so they don't care about the future of Grenada and what ultimately can be the result if every Monday morning teachers decide they're not going to school. Or everything that goes wrong, they decide they're going to go on rest and reflection. So having order in a system is important. Having rules, having guidelines is important. And so that decision that the government took, we stood by that, empathizing with the persons who did lose or was not paid for those days. We empathize. But in leadership, and I think I heard you mention something, so in leadership, sometimes you just have to make tough decisions for the greater good as it relates to ensuring that you are able to manage. The union approached the government some months ago, about 6 months ago, as it relates to a resolution to this particular situation. And the government said to the union in no uncertain terms that this is not a major issue for the government, meaning it is not a major issue to talk about paying persons for the days they were not paid. It is not a major issue for us to find the resources to make that possible. But if we are going to do that, it must be with a very clear understanding that we do not end up back tomorrow where we started. That we must not end up with a situation where we have to be dealing with this same situation all over again because all we thought about was just giving persons some money, end of story, as opposed to protecting the education system of Grenada. And that was when the conversation started as it relates to the conditions under which the government is prepared to consider the request of the union. So, the government's first concern was, if we're going to have this conversation, we must be clear what is work to rule. During that time, I'm sure you recall, everybody had a different definition for work to rule. Some people were staying home because they're on work to rule. Some people sat in their staff room and was doing nothing because they're on work to rule. And the government was very clear that we needed to be clear what is work to rule if we're going to have a conversation of resolving this particular issue. We must restore order as it relates to what is work to rule. And I always say, in fairness to the union, they did issue a correspondence to membership explaining to its membership that on work to rule, persons must be guided by the Education Act and the appointment letter. I saw that communication myself circulated. So the issue in my mind is probably as it relates to work to rule, one area that we probably do not totally agree with, which is the issue of hours as it relates to work to rule. And that is pretty minor. I don't think that is one that we want to focus on in terms of immediate attention.
Right.
The other issue has to do with what happens in the future. Because there will be, let's not fool ourselves. I am not going to fool myself to think that next week or next month that the union may not have a grievance, that there might not be something that the union is not happy about.
Right.
If we go on the premise that all would be well in the future, then something has to be wrong with us. So you must go on the premise that in the future, there may be something else that the union might have a grievance with. The question is, what are we guided by in terms of how we operate when there's a grievance? And the law speaks clearly to that. But the question is, are we committing to follow the law when there is a grievance? Do we understand very clearly that you cannot expect the government to pay workers if the union decides that it wants to call off workers whenever it wishes to do so?
Right.
How do we run an education system like that? And so these are some of the things that the government is saying we are prepared to consider a payment, but we are not willing to consider. It would be silly of the government, irresponsible, immoral, I would dare say, for the government to consider this without considering the future of the education system and protecting the future of the education system. And so you cannot just say that these persons did not work, we did not pay you because you did not work. And then tomorrow we just get up and say, okay, we're going to pay you because you did not work. I mean, how do you act so irresponsible? There must be conversations that we are clear on how we're going forward. So the other thing that we established in discussions is that when we look at the current education system, there's a lot of work to be done that government by itself cannot do. All stakeholders must be on board to help in strengthening the education system. And we've been having those conversations with several of our stakeholders. Mm-hmm. But the union is also a stakeholder. And so the commitment of the union towards the building and strengthening of the education system is also very important and very critical. And if you ask me if I think that the union is genuine about building and strengthening the education system, I believe from conversations with the current executive, they are concerned about the education system and strengthening and building of the education system. I would die tomorrow believing that. Mm-hmm. But you see, it cannot just be something that we say. We have to commit to that in a way that we can proceed with actions and activities that implies that, yes, we do. So I've always said to the union, you have a fundamental responsibility to speak about benefits of workers, but you must also have the conversation about productivity, performance, professionalism. And I believe they agree with that. So it is not just a matter in isolation. It is a matter that we all have to look at the holistic picture and how do we ensure that every action that we take is an action that indicates that we are thinking not just about today, because we can selfishly just think about today, but we must be thinking about the future of all of our children. We must be thinking about the future of the education system.
Right. It really is a lot of information. And I think that, or I'm hoping at least that the people who need to listen are listening, because we have had a lot of misconceptions as it relates to this entire issue from the time it began to now, on what people believe that government should have done and what actually happened and what the work to rule entails. Because I remember we spoke about it here to length about what work to rule actually is. And there are a lot of people who still don't understand what the work to rule is all about.
Mm-hmm. And I want to agree with you, although I would admit that I believe it is far clearer now to most persons. There might be persons who may be taking advantage. You know, sometimes we pretend we don't know what we know. And I would be, in fairness, to our teachers and to the union, I believe people are far clearer. Not that they are totally clear, but far clearer as it relates to what is work to rule.
Okay. Well, Ms. I know that you're doing a lot of work as it relates to the reforming of the education system, and that is a conversation for a whole program. But what would you say is the way forward or the next step as it relates to, because I see a lot of the schools are having their sports meets, and of course yesterday we commended them for that decision, because of course they would have stood out amongst the giants and said, okay, enough is enough. We are going to do what we need to do for the children. And so what is the next step?
As it relates to next step, I don't know that I can say there's a next step in relation to this particular matter. What I can say is that the focus of the ministry over the past 2 years has been and will continue to be strengthening and building, strengthening the education system to ensure that we give a fair chance to every learner in the education system to succeed. So there's a lot of work to be done in that regard. So our next step is really to continue the work that we started and to ensure that we strengthening and rebuilding what is so important for our education system. We intend and we expect that the union would continue to be a stakeholder in this process, and we continue to work with all those stakeholders, not just the union, that can contribute to this process, which is so very important. As I said before, the government has stated very clearly its position on the matter as it relates to payment of teachers. The teachers have rejected what the government is prepared to do. Now, I don't think anybody should be upset with the teachers or the union about this. That is within everybody's right to agree, not agree, to accept, not accept. And, you know, it's unfortunate that we cannot agree on those things, but at the same time, that's the right of every. We should not be upset. That's the right of the union and the teachers to agree or not to agree. So we should not, in life, it's a basic principle, we should not expect everybody to agree with everything.
Yeah.
Right? If we take that approach, then we miss something very important. So they have not agreed, they've not accepted. What can you do? We have done everything I believe we could have done in this situation. I think we've been backwards. We've done a lot in terms of trying to accommodate. And I believe where we are now, the focus has to be on building our education system.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Minister, for calling and clearing the air and lending your voice to this issue. And I hope that a lot of people would have received some clarity on the current situation, because apparently a lot of people believe that there is a fight happening between the Union of Teachers and the Ministry of Education. And it's good to know.
No problem.
And it's good to know that there isn't. So I hope to have you in studio soon. So
yes, I'm committing a full program.
All right.
I would not say in the coming week, probably the week after this.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Minister.
Bye-bye.
You too. All right. So that was our Minister of Education shedding some light on the current situation between the Union of Teachers and the Ministry of Education. And as you all heard it, there's no fight. There's no disagreement. There's no bickering. You know, they may disagree on a few topics, which is natural. It's part of life. We all don't agree. Husband and wife doesn't even agree. Teeth and tongue does clash. All right? But they still have to coexist. All right? For the betterment of the nation's children. So I hope to see in the upcoming weeks and the upcoming months that everything gets resolved. And you know, it's funny that a lot of us who are not directly involved in this situation have the most to say about it. You know, the most information or misinformation. We have the most ideas about what the government of Grenada should do. But remember, there are two parties involved in this. So as much as you would want the government of Grenada to do, you must also want the Grenada Union of Teachers to do. All right? And I sat here yesterday and I commended the teachers, as they very well deserved it. You know, some of them. Because we still have a lot of teachers out there who do a lot of nonsense. And because the Ministry of Education doesn't come and sit on public radio and public TV and point fingers and say, Miss Jane and Teacher Ann and Auntie Susie, three of them didn't come to school for a month straight and they had extra job outside and that's what they're doing because they didn't come to school, or that this school is keeping children back because they want their grades to look good and so on. Because they don't come and point fingers and call names, it doesn't mean that these things are not happening. It doesn't mean that they're not trying to handle it. Sometimes we need to be more supportive as a people to our administrators and the things that they are trying to achieve. And like I said, we put too much politics in everything. that we don't see the benefit in a situation. We add so much negativity to an issue that we don't see the benefit, that we don't see the positivity, that we don't identify the pros of a situation. You know? Because if you attach negativity, if you look at only the cons in a situation, then you can never see it being resolved. But as soon as you start seeing that silver lining, that light at the end of the tunnel, that is when you start identifying ways in which the issue can be resolved. And that is what we need to start doing as a people, as a nation. Leave politics for election time. In the next 2 or 3 years, when everybody jumping up in their colors, leave the politics for then. Because once a party wins the election and they are meant to govern a country, they govern all of the people. They take all of the people into consideration. And those of you who believe otherwise, and those of you who believe that you don't benefit from the government, you need to reassess what exactly it is you are hoping to gain. And if what you are asking for is actually something that can or should be done. We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Oh, yes, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. And how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. I want to congratulate you again on the way in which you run this radio station. I hope you're not challenging GBN.
I wouldn't even dream of it.
Because I will have to confer a university status on you. But you're going fast there. You're going fast there. Congratulations again. I listened to the minister attentively, and I will tell you, both sides err based on how this matter developed. Both sides erred, and the government did admit that yet both sides erred. And now you get to a point where we begged the government, and I personally did beg the Prime Minister to intervene and to sort of allow reason to take place and let the teachers have the money. And eventually the government had done that. They have made the decision to give back the teachers the money. But there must be conditions, right? Because everything is not well in so much sectors in Grenada, you know, where people are not, production is low and people are doing anything they want. So there must be conditions. And if the government put conditions as a means of giving back the teachers the monies, it is right. And I will advise the teachers and the union to please, we supported you in the fight, the general public, please accept and let this matter settle and perform your job as usual. Because here on, if the teachers fail to, I will not be giving anybody my support anymore on that matter. I will not be giving them my support. So they have to bear that in mind, that if the public assists and the public now is asking you, please settle the matter, accept the monies, and go back to your job and do what you're supposed to do based on the system, then listen to us and comply, other than that you will not be able to get our support in the future. But I want to say this thing, Mr. Duncan. Mm-hmm. I congratulate you for the way you handle the program since you're there. And I want to say this to you. You are doing a good job, fine job, fantastic job. I think you apply a lot of reason in the way you conduct your program, balance in us who contributes. You know what you're looking for because this is an information and to dispense information, mm-hmm. right? Do not allow anybody to tell you how to run your radio station.
Absolutely.
Hmm? Because you see, your radio station is doing a job that some of those who criticize cannot do. And I have been noting for quite some time, some of the people who called and say XYZ, critical of people, you giving people too much time. I listen to them over the years and months. And if they have to sit in your chair, nobody will call your radio station. So you have to be very careful, do your job as usual. You are doing a fine job. And listen less of those people who want you to cut people off and to do people things in a way where people are not going to interact with you. Be mindful of that.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution, caller.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. And as the caller said, he supported the teachers in their struggle. For his reason, there were a lot of people who supported them in their struggle. And now they see a benefit. And this baffles me a lot. I mean, I can have my own opinion as to what I think about the issue. But let's just take this into consideration. The union that represents you has asked you to go on rest and reflection, which is not, and I have been on the web searching, and I looked at even the trade union Congress, and I'm looking for rest and reflection, and in no way. It's not part of the industrial action list. But further from that, on that website, it also asks, can our employer refuse to pay us when we are on strike? And the answer is yes, it is their right, and it is considered a lawful deduction. So government didn't do anything illegal. Government didn't do anything wrong. What they did was make a hard decision. And that happens in leadership from time to time. You know, I always learn this, that you know you're doing things right when you have a few people disagreeing with you. Once everybody agree with everything you do, it probably means you're not doing enough. You know? But government didn't do anything wrong. And that is what we, the public, should understand. The monies were deducted because you would have called your workers off work. They did not attend work. By right, if this is not listed as an industrial action, by right, this 9 days that y'all stay home, y'all should have remained home, because it only takes 3 days for you to be absent from work without providing a medical document. And they call that self-termination. You know? So all of these things could have been considered if necessary. Government exercised their right to withhold monies for the days that you did not work. And even though you are upset about the matter, the fact does not change that it was a lawful action. You know? So that happened. You guys went on work to rule. Some of all you decided all you to work in. Not even working to the rule, you know. Y'all the working period and y'all calling that work to rule. And for some of y'all, it was a normal day because some of y'all go to school and y'all don't do absolutely anything. And it's the truth. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but it is the truth. Because we see it reflecting in some of our nation's children. And government has decided, okay, you have clamored and quarrels about these monies that were deducted. We are going to use these monies now constructively. We are going to take these monies and pump it back into the same education system. We are going to reward each teacher. We are going to reward each teacher. So I know a lot of people going out there talking about a strike, talking about that the government is finally going to reimburse the teachers that lost their money. That's not what's happening. The monies are being used to reward teachers with conditions. Some of y'all don't even know what the conditions is. Y'all behaving like if the government is asking teachers to add an additional hour onto their teaching day. Y'all behaving like if the government is asking the teachers to sign on to something that is unorthodox. You do not even know what the conditions are, but you are blindly jumping to the beat of the drum. No, they shouldn't take the money. Like it's your money that was deducted. So you must tell them what to do. And lending support to something that you do not even understand. And that is what we need to be careful of. You're lending support to something that you don't have the facts on. And at the end of the day, you and everybody else feel silly. And your excuse is, well, I didn't know. Sometimes we have to stop accepting I didn't know as an excuse. I see people jumping on social media talking about shut down the country. And I look at this and shake my head and say, well, what is wrong with these people? Do you know what happens when you shut a country down? Asking for something that you have no information on. That is a sad state of things. That is the mentality of some of our people. But it has to change. We have a problem in this place where everybody becomes an expert on an issue that they feel passionate about without even doing the research. We become hearsay experts. He says and she says. That's what we have become. You know? I have a comment here that says those teachers who went to school have to work twice as much to cover those who did not work. They are the ones who should be getting the compensation. In my book, that is what I would have done. Those of you who went to school, I'd have taken all of them money who didn't go to school and I'd have given it to them. Plain English. Because they had to work twice as hard to hold up 2 and 3 classrooms for parents who had no choice but to send their children to school because there was nowhere else for them to put them. Let's talk about that. We have to be more mindful. We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
How are everything?
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, Duncan, I listen to the Minister of Education, and I support her 100%. Because if they say the government took out money from the teachers, but if you're working as an employer, you have people working with you, and they're supposed to work 20 days and they work 10 days. You have to pay them for the 10 days.
Of
so
course.
if you don't pay them for the next 10 days, they know the money they didn't work for the 10 days.
They didn't work
You
for
pay
it,
them
yeah.
for the days that they work. Right? So the government did not did anything wrong. The government pay them for the days that they work. And so that I want to say, if the government has to do anything, they have to make sure that what the teacher did with the rest and reflection will not happen again.
Yeah.
Because you cannot go and give them money and they continue doing the same thing. You have to make sure that they will not do it again.
Yeah.
Right? Because we sympathize with the teachers, but then man learn from the mistake, and it's time for them, the teachers come together and let us work for the benefit and development of the young people, of the young people of Grenada. Let us put aside politics and let us work for the development of our country.
Absolutely. Thank you for your contribution, caller. You know, I have somebody on the live video here saying they think if the country shut down, it will not affect them. I believe you. I feel that's what they believe. You know, if you shut a country down, well, I mean, everybody gonna be affected. And really, is that what you want for your country? Because then who must go back and fix the mess that you have created? It's like you're creating a problem for the government to fix and then complaining that the government is not fixing the problem that you yourself have created. Like, it's like you're lighting your house afire and you expect the fire truck to come and out it. And if they ain't out it in time, you vex with the fire truck. But you were the one who drew the match. We got to be more mindful about the things that we do and the things that we wish for ourselves. Because when you wish these things on the country, it's not the government that is being affected. It is every citizen within the state of Grenada. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my sweetheart.
Good morning, Miss Jacob. Happy Valentine's Day.
I don't that because if you know where that thing come out.
Oh Lord, I don't want to get into that conversation
Yes,
now,
I
Miss
know
Jacob.
the conversation don't nice. I know it don't nice. But I have Valentine whole time. I'm a Valentine woman every day on the face of the earth.
You spread love every day.
Amen.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesus. And I love how you clear up that thing this morning. And then you have a no, I know the guy, you know, I know him. Call me M. Why are you this woman and them? Hush, you, Lord of mercy. I put down the phone on him. He called me. And another lady in the veranda with me. I said, lady, go and answer. If it's a man, turn off the phone on him. And she did it in truth. And it's a man, the same man. Come back and answer, he come back. But you know why that fella get my thing is the one in Carriacou that give out the number and the A.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no. But Miss Jacob, sometimes you have to clarify things on the
you
spot.
have to clarify it.
Oftentimes I hear things and I don't say anything. But when you hear things like that it's just not right.
No,
You have
you're
to say
right.
something, you know. And when the facts are available to you, you share the facts because the facts don't become available to you for you to keep them in your pocket and then your pocket
No,
full
you
of
have to give
facts.
it out.
You have to give it out. You have to.
You have to give it out. And since last night, I hear again and those teachers and them going with the walk through, you know. It come over the air on the news last night. The teachers and them going to and they walk the rule again. They don't give it up.
All right.
And I'm
Well,
afraid to say it.
well,
It's
Miss
the
Jacob.
opposition and them that do that.
Well,
I'm
Miss
afraid.
Jacob, that's their right. If they feel like every time something doesn't go their way, they will
Yes.
throw a tantrum, then that is their right.
Is that?
You know, it's very difficult for us to tell our
really hard.
children to solve critical problems by looking at it from a different point of view
That's
and
right.
trying to address it without aggression.
That's it.
And we ourselves are not practicing what we preach.
How they say, how they think, shut down the country. If they're shutting down the country, those stupid don't know, they're shutting down their own self too. They're stupid, they don't know they're shutting down their own self too.
Like I
God,
say,
people
they-
doesn't watch.
They don't know what
People
they're
have
asking for.
education. Some of us, we have education, but we don't have common sense.
That is
They
so
must
true.
let go some of the education and take up more of the common sense. The common sense that ruling.
Yep.
What? Uncle Gary was not educated man, you know. No. But you cannot beat him on the common sense.
Common sense.
Common sense is it. Some of them have come. Give them, those that had the education, give them a piece of board and see how they go thing it. If they don't have common sense, to put the nail in the board and to knock it. I know some of them go kill me. I don't care. I don't care.
Speaker, what you do is right. But thank you so much for contributing.
You're welcome, darling. And so what happened to me, brother? You'll give him next week. Next week you'll give him.
Who is that, Mr. Bola?
Yes.
Mr. Bola ain't even I ain't see him yet for the day. Today's Valentine's Day, so I ain't really expect him.
Got on Valentine with it. Oy. But anyway, I hope next week you bring me Valentine for us.
I find so.
You have to give us it next week.
I find so.
So
Enjoy
you have
your
a
day.
wonderful and a blessed weekend, darling. And
You
don't let
too.
this kind of thing trample you down the road.
Of course
Have
not.
self-control and have some common sense.
Of course.
Hey, Popo?
Yes, darling.
Love you, baby. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Yes, Miss Jacob always puts a smile on my face, you know. But we have to be mindful of what we're asking for, you know. Like I said, emotions are high, and you are right to be emotional about things that you are passionate about. But you have to be careful of what you say in that emotional time, in that emotional space, that it doesn't turn around and kick you. Have to be careful. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan,
Good morning.
and a special morning to your listening audience. You know, and happy Valentine's to all those who celebrate it and who have somebody to celebrate it with. I'm one of those people who have somebody to celebrate it with.
Aren't you a lucky man?
Oh, I'm telling you, and Miss Duncan, I'm counting my blessings every single day. You know, I have had the opportunity to establish some wonderful and great relationship, you know, with some wonderful, very few women, you know, that I had the opportunity to share special moments with. They have all been great.
Well, you're a lucky man. I am still looking for somebody to share that with. But in the meantime, I have two beautiful people who need all of the love that I can give them.
And that's where you're focusing me for now. Don't
Absolutely.
Look too hard, because sometimes they say be careful. Okay, now, since I was a young man growing up, Miss Duncan, there was a traditional saying: if you cannot beat them, you should join them. And and that's what I did. Because when I realized, by remaining a supporter and member of the NDC, that I would have been buried 30 feet deep, politically speaking, and I have no idea when resurrection day will come. I said, you see me? Let me make my way right now and jump ship and join and get on a ship that is floating and that will get me to where I want to go. And that's where I am today.
Yeah.
But listen to this. Politically speaking, Miss Duncan, there is no argument the NDC could put forward that can make us change this government. Why? Because this government have outperformed the NDC in every aspect of our country growth and development. I want any supporter, a member of the NDC, to point out to me just one area where, as government, the NDC, where the NDC performed better than the NNP. Just one. That's all I need, just one. And they cannot find one because there is none. Because this government, we know that. That's the reason why you see they turn to propaganda and misinformation. Yeah. When it comes to this country, because they realize they are bankrupt on ideas.
Yep.
Just imagine the same argument we made at NDC 20 years ago. I cannot believe that. This is the same argument these folks are making today. So that's all for them. The other thing is that I really would like to thank Dexter Mitchell and all those responsible for putting the invitational together, because this is no child's play, serious business. The economic spin-off from this invitational is unbelievable. And to put such a fantastic group of athletes together just shows the great depth in the organizational ability of Dexter and his team.
Yeah.
The world is watching, and today we have not disappointed them. Congratulations to all those who are involved in the invitational. And to our teachers, yes, brothers and sisters, some of you all may still have issues, but we have to do right and what is in the best interest of all our children.
Absolutely.
And once you do that, I can assure you the time will come when you will get your due.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time, Ms. Duncan.
Thank you, caller, for your contribution. As always good contribution. You know, he said, if you can't beat them, join them. I have another one for you. If you can't defeat them, be one with them. That just goes to show you've tried everything. The only thing you haven't tried is support. That might just work in your favor. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hi, caller. Good morning. Hello? Caller, good morning. All right, I don't seem to be hearing you. Just try us one more time. And of course, the time is running down. But yes, like a comment we have here that says, you know, we hope that they know that a country cannot be run on propaganda. I hope they know that too. Because you're using all the propaganda to get into office. You ain't give us one idea as to what you're going to do for us when you get there. Just know that when you get there, propaganda can't run this country. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. Oh, no. I don't know what's happening, caller, no? I don't know what's going on there. Hello? I don't know, Mr. Technical Man. My overseas line in doing me justice this morning at all. Good morning. Good morning. Hello? No. I still ain't getting it. I don't know what's happening this morning with that overseas line. So, caller, I apologize if you're trying to get through and you're not hearing us. I don't know if it's on my end or if it's on your end. Good morning. Yeah, I don't know if the problem is on my end or if it's on your end, but I am not hearing you. I don't know if you are hearing me. All right, but keep trying. You know, success comes with multiple attempts. All right. Now we gotta be mindful of what we want as a people, and I'll continue to say it. I'll continue to say it all of the time. Aim for something that you know is achievable. You know, that you know will bring benefit to the people of Grenada. So it's very disheartening to think that when the teachers thought that they were getting their money back, when they didn't understand fully what it was about, they were quick to call the work to rule off. But as soon as they realized that there were conditions attached, all of a sudden, all man Jack and the brother gone back on work to rule. That speaks volumes. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan. I know it's a few minutes before time to go, so I'll be very quick.
All right.
Now, I have a problem, and I'm being very honest with the decision that the government made, and I'll tell you why, as it relates to the strike thing. Now, the union called off their strike. The reason why they called off their strike, it was not because of a legitimate reason. It is not mandatory. It was not that the teachers get their what you call it, the severance free thing or whatever it was. It's off the top of my head now. The government bent backwards to try to assist them. The union, which I have a problem with union, they didn't want to hear. They went on this walk to rule thing. But here is what is my number one problem. There is something in the union called a strike fund, and this is what I have a problem with. Now, when you call off your people to strike or to think, the strike fund supposed to step in. There is no reason why the government should now having to give teachers money for a work they should not do. That is supposed to be the responsibility of the union. So, yes, I mean, honestly, I love Ms. Pierre. That is my girl, but I disagree with her right there. And the government for letting the government kick them, not the government, letting the union kick them around as football. You have a strike fund, you use your strike fund, you call out your people, you use the strike fund. Then I want to know where is the money for the strike fund, because if you cannot pay the people you're representing for the time you call them out, I wonder if they have a strike fund. Then the FIU have to get involved and see if somebody will use the money and do something else with the monies or not. This is a serious thing, you know.
Yeah.
This is a serious thing because you have a strike fund. There is a purpose for the strike fund. This is where the strike fund is supposed to be used. No money from the strike fund was used. And before, I know they were saying, oh, well, we have money in the strike fund. How much money you have when the media asks them? They never tell us. Up to now, we don't know. Now, that strike fund could be zero right now. And I think it's something that the FIU should look into. They have to start investigating the unions. Maybe the money goes somewhere. We don't know. We don't know. I'm not saying it did, but it's possible that money maybe go in some place that it's not supposed to go because no strike fund was used. And again,
Caller, I want to give you a joke. While you're on that topic, I want you to move from the topic before I give you the joke. So, I have a teacher friend, and I asked him one day, I said, well, you pay union dues every month. It's deducted from your salary, and it goes directly to the union. And I said to him, well, because he was one of those that participated heavily in the rest and reflection. And I said to him, I said, well, where is that money? Your union should have a strike fund to pay you in times that they call you out from work, because your employer has a right to not pay you for days that you have worked. You know what he said to me?
Yes.
He said to me, well, you know how much it costs to run a union? You know how much money they have to spend for us to get food and thing on Labor Day? I say, look at the mentality of our people.
But you see, and then again, too, I don't think he really understands what the strike fund is. And the name says what it is.
Yeah.
It's a strike fund. So when you have the rallies and stuff, like every media and stuff, that does not come out from your strike fund.
Exactly.
And I want to believe, I think also that the government, I'm not quite sure, I could be wrong, that the government may have would have been given the unions a certain amount of money. I don't know if it's every year or every quarter or whatever. I'm not sure if that is true, like to assist them in whatever. I'm not sure if that part is true.
I'm not sure either, but I can find out.
Yes, but I know there is a strike fund. There is supposed to be a strike fund, and I am not sure. And I think, honestly, I have to run because I know time running out. No money from strike fund is supposed to be was used. That means some investigation is supposed to take place, and let's stop talking about we're supposed to understand and meet. You can't meet with that. When you say it comes to money, you can't compromise with money.
Absolutely.
And I personally have a thing against that. So have a good weekend, my dear, and have a good weekend, Grenada.
All right, thank you for your contribution. You know, I in the midst of all of that happening, I found out that the unions in union dues alone make almost 800,000, I believe, a year from union dues, and monies are supposed to be split up. You're supposed to have things like an education fund to provide scholarships and so on. Our unions don't do that, and if they do, it's really the best kept secret in Grenada. You know, so we need to start asking the relevant questions. All right, y'all want to go on strike and so on, and that is the reason why you have your teachers working to the rule, because you know once they work to rule, The government had to pay them, and some of them don't even understand what work to rule is, so they sit down in the school doing absolutely nothing and talking about their working to rule. So you feel like you've achieved some agenda. But at the end of the day, our children are the ones that suffer. And at the end of the day, we will be the ones to feel the repercussions of these irresponsible actions. And that's all I have to say. Guys, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. To those of you who are going out tonight to drink your red wine and enjoy your chocolate and your flowers, have a wonderful and safe Valentine. Of course, when Monday comes, I want to be speaking with you and not about you. So have a safe weekend and enjoy the remainder of your day. It really has been a pleasure.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Grenada Airports Authority maintains heightened vigilance to protect Grenada against coronavirus. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Thursday, February 13th, 2020, I'm Leslie Ann Johnson. The Morris Bishop International Airport maintains heightened vigilance to ensure the coronavirus does not reach Grenada's borders. The airport's arrival area is currently outfitted with 2 infrared fever sensing cameras, one at the entrance and the other closer to the immigration area. The first camera was set up a few years ago when chikungunya was present in Grenada and other Caribbean countries, and it has been functioning ever since. Environmental Health Officer assigned to the MBIA, Derek Ramkilawan, spoke with the GIS about the function of the cameras.
So each individual that's come off and come in there, their temperature is being recorded. All right? It is set at 38 degrees Celsius. That is when a person would show fever. And if that temperature is recorded in any individual, they are pulled aside, do a secondary screening, and we review their travel history and so on. Our main concern here, what I want to make this absolutely clear, is that the screening is the temperature, and then the second most important thing is the travel history. Once they have traveled to China within the 14 days that has been set out to be an incubation period, then a person would be going to mandatory quarantine.
The airport has an advanced passenger list which it reviews for travelers of interest and a main watch list which contains the names of students in China. A person of interest, he says, does not come through the main area but will be escorted to a processing area.
From the aircraft, they come directly to this processing area because we don't want to expose other person, because this is under controlled temperature. We don't want anyone showing symptoms come inside and, expose others. Yeah, or contaminate the area, that, as we may say. So we bring them out from the aircraft directly to this area, which is well ventilated and so on, so we could do our further screening.
And the sensor, now the second sensor is just in the event that you don't pick up something.
Right, anything, yes, because sometimes when the place is very hot, the individuals, and then walking through the sun, you may have a little elevated temperature. So the second one would give you a clear-cut and accurate reading.
The procedure is the same for persons coming in on private jets. Mr. Ramkilawan says it is now mandatory that people fill the section of the immigration form which requests the travel history of a passenger in the last 6 weeks. Representatives from the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Health met Thursday with parents and guardians of students pursuing higher education in China. The officials say they are working with the Chinese embassy to ensure that the students are safe. The meeting, which was held at the GBSS, was addressed by Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Peter David, the Honorable Pamela Moses, Minister with responsibility for tertiary education, human resource development and education outreach, and Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Francis Martin. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell met with Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Grenada, His Excellency Dr. Zhao Yongchen, for the second time in recent weeks to discuss the outbreak of the coronavirus. During the recent meeting, both the Prime Minister and the Chinese ambassador outlined the actions being taken by their respective governments to protect citizens. Ambassador Zhao also gave assurances that the government of the People's Republic of China is doing everything possible to control the spread of the virus. Dr. Mitchell welcomed the actions being taken by the Chinese government and praised President Xi Jinping for his decisive leadership in addressing the current situation. The Prime Minister expressed similar confidence in the actions of the President when he delivered his Independence Day address last Friday. With regard to the travel ban that was instituted by Grenada earlier this month, Dr. Mitchell said given the fluidity of the situation, all measures are reviewed as developments take place. Both the governments of Grenada and the People's Republic of China have committed to continue monitoring and reviewing the actions being taken to control the spread of the virus. On the Sister Isle, Minister for Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs and Local Government, the Honorable Kindra Mathurin-Stewart, met with health professionals, immigration, police, airport and port authority representatives to develop a contingency plan that will address the threats posed by the coronavirus and also safeguard the islands from future outbreaks. The plan being developed entails health declaration and probing questionnaires, establishment of a quarantine and an isolation area, heightened surveillance, and the operation of handheld thermometers at the island's ports of entry. Minister Mathurin-Stewart says with Carriacou and PT Martinique being directly connected to islands like St. Vincent and the Grenadines, measures must be put in place to ensure the safety of citizens of Grenada on a whole from all ports of entry. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Kayak Mass 2020. February 15th to February 25th in the Real events. Make it one spectacular carnival. Saturday, February 15th, Children Mass, Frolic, and the Big Show. Thursday, February 20th, Queen Show Night. February 21st, Soca Monarch. Saturday, 22nd, Jab Convention. Calypso and Groovy. Sunday, February 23rd, Monday, Juve and Monday Night Mass. Tuesday, February 25th, Shakespeare Mass and The Last Lap. All the major MCs and DJs will be inside Kayak Mass 2020. Make reservations and book now.
85 university students and 8 secondary school students received scholarships on Thursday at the Ministry of Education's first Scholarship Award ceremony for 2020. The ceremony was held at the Grenada Olympic House in Montrouge. Details from Annette Moore.
I'm very thankful to God and to the government of Grenada and the people of Grenada for affording me this opportunity. I feel very grateful that I'm able to pursue my dream to becoming a medical doctor.
More than US $13 million were presented to 85 students for study at the St. George's University in the areas of pre-medicine, medicine, veterinary medicine, and arts and sciences, to include nursing. Assistant Dean of Admissions at SGU, Talisha Noel, reflected on the SGU partnership with the government of Grenada.
We at St. George's University treasure our partnership with the government of Grenada by supporting the development of the human resource capital of the country for 43 years. Scholarship recipients, as you initiate your academic journey with St. George's University, I encourage you to value this scholarship opportunity.
This year, the government of Grenada, in partnership with the St. George's University, added 19 additional scholarships in the area of arts and sciences, 5 in the area of medicine, and 2 in the field of veterinary medicine for the January 2020 semester. The number of scholarships for nursing has now increased from 10 to 12, along with one other special improvement.
We are really pleased as a government to announce that the type of degree that is offered at St. George's University has been upgraded from an associate degree to a bachelor degree in nursing.
Honorable Pamela Moses, Minister with responsibility for tertiary education, encouraged students to make the most of their opportunity and to give back to their community. She also thanked all stakeholders, particularly SGU and the Grenada Houston Association.
On behalf of the government of Grenada, I truly, deeply thank St. George's University for its continued partnership and for expanding it this year and throughout the years. I take this opportunity to make special mention of our stakeholder, the Grenada Houston Association, who is awarding 8 secondary school students financial support to assist in the attainment of their educational goals. We appreciate all their efforts and continually look forward to these valuable engagements from our Grenadian diaspora.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Kevin Andel, noted the relationship between education and a nation's ability to compete.
We are in an age where competitiveness is experienced. For us to make a change in the world, for us to garner wealth, for us to engage in meaningful economic activity, we have to be competitive. And in order to be competitive, we have to be able to use the knowledge that we have garnered and apply it into varying situations.
The Grenada Houston Association presented academic support awards to 8 secondary school students as part of their annual awards.
To receive the award is such an honor because I was very hardworking and determined to get a scholarship so it could ease me financially.
It takes off a big burden off of me financially, of my parents, and it actually motivates me, pushes me forward knowing that somebody's taking interest in me.
I see myself making an impact in Grenada by after I finish study, so I could come back and, find somewhere a job or a clinic or somewhere where I can put my skills and the education I attain to use to help the population of my country.
It means something to me that there are people out there in the Grenada Houston Association who believe in our young people and are willing to, as the tired cliche goes, put their money where their mouth is.
SGU awardees also shared their feelings about being recipients, their goals for the future, and their desire to contribute to the development of Grenada.
It's an amazing feeling, it's an exciting feeling, I must say. And I would like to thank God for the opportunity to be able to study. And I would also like to thank the government for seeing it fit to give not only me, but many of my other colleagues a scholarship.
Just knowing that my financial burden is taken off my shoulder, my parents' shoulder, that is enough to motivate me to do what I have to do to obtain my goals.
Once you do well in pre-med, you automatically get, the scholarship automatically rolls over to med. So, that was just really easy and convenient. And again, super grateful for that opportunity to pursue my dreams into becoming a medical doctor.
I hope to specialize in maxillofacial surgery, which Grenada needs.
I want to be a gynecologist because growing up, my grandmother was a nurse. So that influenced me to get into the field of medicine.
My ultimate career goal is to be a cardiothoracic surgeon and to also have a degree in psychiatry.
My whole purpose in getting into this profession is because I simply love to help people.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.